Well, here I am, Glasgow, Scotland. Looks nice. Cool. Unfortunately, I have done absolutely zero research. I don't know why I'm here except that I booked the flight on a whim. I was in Italy. My hotel was going to expire and I had nowhere to stay, nowhere to go, so I booked a flight to Scotland. Now, the first thing I need to do is Google it. Scotland is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. I did know that. Good old Wikipedia.
Now obviously Scotland is a lot more than that, but rather than read about it, I wanted to discover things for myself. First thing to note is the city traffic. See anything unusual here? No gridlock! Scotland is not overcrowded like the rest of Europe, but unfortunately they drive on the wrong side of the road and don't like pickup trucks, which means I'll be walking a lot. Next of note is the architecture. No slap-it-up utility-grade boxes like Canada has. Every structure has character, personality, history, and something so rare in North America, culture. Even the graffiti is a class act. The architects are actually artists here. Now the Charing Cross mansions showed promise. Classy digs with bare-breasted spikeheads. Must be a place for fine dining as well, right? Well, that's certainly a fail. It seemed all the healthy restaurants were reserved for evening dining, so I elected to seek out a convenience store and make my own meal. A banana, some oat milk, and cornflakes did the trick at a local Tesco Express. To all North American tourists, that sign does not say toilet, it actually says to let, and that's how they say for rent here. Do not pee in their corridor. Should nature call, look for a man and woman walking together. Now I don't need gas, or petrol as they call it here, but this gas station did have one essential I desperately needed. And what a brilliant concept it is, an outdoor self-serve laundromat. For £8 or $15 Canadian, I could finally freshen up what I was wearing through France and Italy. Just insert a few coins, press a button, and come back later. It's open 24 hours and no hanging out at a musty laundromat smelling other people's socks. With clean duds and a few groceries, I could now set out for my first trip. Fortunately, my hotel was right beside a train station.
Well, my first trip today is to Loch Lomond, just to do some walking around. And because I'm not on a tour, and because I'm not driving, I have to rely on public transportation. So the first part of this journey is by train.
After enduring the subways of Paris and Rome, the Scottish trains were a big step up. My daughter forced me to start using my phone instead of paper maps to get directions, and this was not a smooth transition.
Well, this didn't go exactly as planned. I was supposed to meet a bus in Annie's Land, but I guess I missed it because the next one's in 2 hours. So I've gone back to the train, see if I can get to Alexandria, and then I can take another bus. Seems timing is a huge issue, and I'm not good at that.
Now, Google totally led me astray, as that silly dance between trains and buses was not necessary at all. Fortunately, the Scottish are both friendly and helpful, and a real person, not an app, provided the correct route, which was a single train to a town called Balloch. But I finally made it to my destination and decided to start off with another concept truly radical to me, a tour boat. So lakes in Scotland are called lochs, and Loch Lomond is their largest, covering an area of 71 square kilometers. It was formed by glaciers during the last ice age. And the mountains to the north are part of the Scottish Highlands. Although a lot of old buildings along the shore look like castles, many are actually just hotels for the rich and foolish. Now, I gotta admit, watching the world go by from a window was not my definition of a tour, and I was quite relieved when the boat started to head back. Although the ride was interesting, I would not be happy until my boots made contact with the local soil. And Balloch had a beautiful walking park right next to the tour dock.
This is Balloch Park, which is beautiful. Lots of live oaks, big, massive oaks. Lots of moss on them.
No matter where I travel, I will always long for a forest to walk in. But this one comes with a real castle, something I'd never find back home. All that green grass was a favorite for dog walkers, and afterward both the walker and the dog can enjoy an ice cream snack. In the summer, this would be the perfect place to kayak, but since I was only here in winter, I was happy just to enjoy that cool solitude.
It's kind of a cold, miserable day, but hey, it's still nice. The air is nice and fresh. It's quiet. There's geese, plenty of places to walk, and it's calm, relaxing. If you've been in the city for a while, you just want to chill out, great place to go.
After a pleasant walk in the park, I was back on the train to Glasgow before dark fell.
Well, it's now night, and I'm hungry, and my previous attempts to get decent food at night were not too good. First of all, most of the restaurants tend to open late, and they tend to be very expensive. So tonight, I improvised. I got some fast food, but some special Scottish fast food. This is loaded fries. Let me show you. If I can get it open, I guess. There we go. Okay, what do we got here? We got French fried potatoes, or just fried potatoes, I don't know what they call them here, with macaroni and cheese, and some toppings of dried onions. There. Somewhere underneath all that are some French fries. I don't know where. I guess sort of like that. So you know what I'm eating. So how does it taste? Good enough for me. I guess it's the Scottish equivalent of poutine. And it's vegetarian, not vegan or vegan, but vegetarian. Packed with grease, lots of salt. Mega carb rush. I love it.
And as usual, I try to share my food experience with my viewers. Open up wide. The next morning, I took a walk along the Clyde River. While admiring the Cathedral of St. Andrew, I encountered a dog training event. I was so entranced with watching the dogs that I was completely oblivious as to what was happening at both sides of the walking trail I was on.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. No worries.
For the locals had stopped walking to let me film.
Oh, so it's all right. I'm sorry.
Wow, they're just so incredibly polite here. Now, how could you visit Scotland and not think of one thing? Scotch. This Ein and Hisky shop seemed to be the perfect place to indulge. But why was Southern Comfort and Jack Daniels taking up window space? Seems blasphemous. Especially when the Strathclyde Distillery was making Chivas Regal right across the river. Perhaps the pigeons were enjoying that sweet grain perfume. Now, any walks in the city have to be balanced out with a walk in the park.
Look at you. You're fat. You're fat because you mooch.
Now, I really wasn't here to shop, especially when my flight only included carry-on, so my interest in the cities was more to observe. I liked to see that at least some of the buses were electric, and the people had the right to air their views. It was also good to see that despite the cold, people would still get out and mingle, like at this Winterfest held around Christmas time. There were lots of vendors, kids' rides, and food stands. I even saw the famous fried Mars bars on sale in Glasgow, but I decided to pass on that. Now, if you think I'm a tad antisocial this trip, you're kinda right. I had planned to meet a few of my Scottish viewers and even put out a notice prior to arriving. So if you happen to be a viewer from the UK, drop me a line on my webpage, slimpotatohead.com. There's a spot there that you can send me a message if you'd like to say hello. But unfortunately, their schedules just didn't align with my visit. Oh well. The animals didn't have schedules, however, and we got along quite well. Now, there's one other green space in Glasgow that definitely has to be on everyone's travel list. Just northwest of downtown, near the University of Glasgow, is Kelvingrove Park. Along the banks of the River Kelvin, there's plenty of wildlife. There's also a myriad of walking trails, gardens, and a bandstand. But if my focus is too much on nature, there's also the perfect spot here for culture. Because right beside the park is this impressive sandstone structure, the Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum. You first enter the museum through the center hall, which doubles as a banquet room for special events. It features a majestic pipe organ originally commissioned for the Glasgow International Exhibition of 1901. The display rooms are divided into two major themes: expression, which encompasses the major art collection, and life, which includes natural history, human history, Scotland's first people, its conflicts, and its culture. The life exhibit is a study of contrasts. There's a rabbit, birds, and a shark amongst medieval helmets. And surrounded by swords is a wire sculpture of warriors in combat. The origins of the Scottish people go back 10,000 years, and the displays include pottery, a 1,000-year-old longboat, and the influence of the Vikings on its early people. Now, no Scottish cultural exhibit would be complete without kilts, and there's many of them here. The expression wing is pure art, and what more fitting a way to show expression than through the various facial gestures of Sophie Cave's Floating Heads installation. 50 dangling heads look down at you constantly, changing their emotions as they spin in the air. Now, unlike the stuffy museums of other parts of Europe, Kelvingrove seems a lot more joyful, varied, even whimsical, to help entice all imaginations. There are world-renowned artists like Rembrandt, Van Gogh, Picasso, and Monet, but I was really here to see what the Scots had created. Now, this work by William Orchardson of Edinburgh is a perfect example of how a painting can tell a story. To the left is an isolated, brooding lady of wealth, obviously at odds with her rich husband and servant to the right. It's called A Marriage of Convenience and was painted in 1884. The gallery was comfortable to feature entirely different themes together, like a contemporary painting by Alison Watt, with Britain Reviere's Last of the Crew right beside it. Over 100 years separate these works. But I must admit I am biased, as at any gallery I am always drawn by one of two things. The first is a good landscape, like this Dutch painting by Jan Wijnants from 1672. Or the rugged terrain of Glencoe painted by Scotsman Horatio McCulloch in 1864. This tranquil pastoral scene is called Balmoral and was painted by Glasgow artist Joseph Denovan Adam in 1896. Now, the second type of art that seems to always attract my eye is that of a beautiful lady, as this one in William Stott's painting of 1898 called Autumn. However, Scotland certainly has its share of pretty girls, both today and in the past, and the one that grabbed my heart is this one by Bessie McNichols of a Glasgow girl in 1898. And aye, she was a bonny lass.
The Kelvingrove Museum and Art Exhibit is totally worth seeing. If you're in Glasgow, you can't miss it. It's unique, it's diverse, it's expressive, it's colorful, it's thought-provoking, and most importantly, it's free. Art should be free, and it is here.
One last stroll through the park before I pack my bag.
Well, I know I was only here for a very short time, didn't prepare well, and didn't see a lot of things. But my last day, I think it made it all worthwhile because I just took it easy, walked around and saw the local sights, the gardens, the walkways, and by far the best thing I've seen here is Kelvin Grove. Both the park, the art gallery, and the museum. Well worth seeing. Doesn't cost you anything. Get a little fresh air, you get some exercise, you get a little culture, and you get a little nature. So if you come to Glasgow, this is the place to be. Bring your dog.
At the central train station, I spot a Canadian icon. I just hope the Scots don't think this is an example of Canadian culture. As I make my way to the trains, I realize my time here was way too short to even grasp a few hints of the natural and cultural beauty this country holds. It was merely a teaser, for Scotland's a place that deserved a second look, and I hope to return sometime in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video and will come along for the next part of my travels as I continue to explore Europe.